Well, Brant, the NFL released their schedule this week. The Lions got theirs, and I want to know your thoughts on it. I mean, I want to know what stuck out to you, what you liked, what you were like, what excites you. I want to get into all of that. I'm gonna start actually. I may be taking one of yours, but the Lions with the Week 5 bye. So somebody posted an article, and I forget who to give credit to from Pride of Detroit, but somebody posted an article where it said in the last 10 years, the Lions have like the lowest average in terms of like the weeks in a season that they get their bye week, which is just like whatever. In the entire NFL, they've got that's where they're at. But Week 5, I hate it. There's no Lions fan who looks at that and they're like, yeah, this is a good thing. You play 4 games and you get your bye week right after the beginning of September or the end of September. I don't love that. And on top of that, I mean, and I guess I'll go maybe 2 at once, Brant, before I hear your thoughts on this. I'm looking at the schedule and I've got it in front of me here. They are going to play a home game on September 30th against the Seahawks. They've got a bye week, and then they've got to go at Cowboys, at Vikings, one home game against the Titans, at Green Bay, at Houston. Brant, they're not at home again until November 17th against the Jaguars. So not only do you have an early bye, but you've got a huge gap in time where you have one home game from the end of September till like mid-November. I don't love that. So those are the initial just negatives for me. And the reason why I say that about the bye week too, I mean, I think most people, this is fairly common sense if you're a football fan. It's just having it that early. We know injuries pile up. We know guys are hurt. They're dinged up. They play through it all year long. When you have it that early, that's hard. Your guys aren't dinged up the same way they are in week 7, 8, 9, you name it. So I don't love that. There are some other things about the schedule though that excite me. So Brian, I want to know your thoughts on just your initial thoughts on the schedule. What stuck out to you?
Same as you, Dave. I mean, the 4 out of 5 on the road it's outrageous. It's something that I look at the Jacksonville home game after that, and I think to myself, I don't know if it has anything to do with the overseas games, but everybody knows that the Jags are going to be overseas twice. And if that does have something to do with that was the reason that you can't play Jacksonville in October, then I think something may need to be done about these European games, whatever, overseas games. They may be getting out of hand, and I think it's really causing havoc on the schedule. Opening the season in Brazil, like that's another thing I could go on for a while about. But anyway, no, I think that's my main takeaway. And they have the 3 home games in December that stack up on top of each other, which will be really nice as a fan, and the primetime games.
Lions got a lot of primetime games. I mean, we are accustomed to having Lions at 1 o'clock p.m. on Sundays. Get used to it, Lions fans. You're in a different category now. You are in the category of the NFL's trying to make money off of you. And that's a good thing, by the way. That's a compliment to you. Yeah, you've got several primetime games. We can talk about those. I want to talk about just like the beginning of the season. Okay, so week 1. What would make more sense for the NFL than to put Matthew Stafford back in Detroit? It's a money-making business, right? So you've got a few primetime games that week. You got the Chiefs kickoff on Thursday night. You've got the Brazil game on, I think it's like Friday, which whatever. Like you said, that's a topic for another time. But then the Sunday night slot, you've got Lions hosting the Rams. Matthew Stafford making his second return to Detroit. Followed up by the way, after that week, another home game against the Bucks. Brant, it should sound familiar to a lot of Lions fans because those were 2 of the playoff games they won this past year. So, not an easy start to the schedule. 2 winnable games. I think most people would say that. And in fact, I read today the Lions are favored to win most of their games, which is another new feeling here in Detroit. But with the Rams coming to Detroit, kicking off the season, I guess here's a question I have to ask you. Does Matthew Stafford get his welcome home, the tribute videos, the claps, the hugs, the all of the stuff that he maybe did not get in the home playoff game here just a few months ago?
I don't think Matthew Stafford should get a tribute. I think he should get maybe a standing ovation. Maybe when they announce him, everybody pays their respects to him. Whatever. I don't need a tribute video. I don't need Detroit to roll out the red carpet for him. I would appreciate if they didn't boo him. I think that would be cool if they don't boo him. But maybe give him a standing O. I thought it was so weird. I watched the NBA playoffs the other day, and LeBron went back to Cleveland. Like, for some reason, he thought he needed to go to that playoff game. And I just thought it was weird that they were showing highlights of LeBron as a Cavalier while the current Cavaliers are out there and he's still in the league. It rubs me the wrong way. I hate how everybody's buddy-buddy. It's bad to, cheer against somebody. I don't like all that. Just give me, hey, thank you for your service, Matthew Stafford, for the years that you were here. That's cool. I would clap for him, but I don't need the tribute video. Don't do all that.
Fair enough. What about, so we know the infamous game against the Cowboys there in the regular season to end, to kind of wrap things up, and it was not it was a very controversial ending to the game, whatever, about the, who checked in, who did not. At the end of the day, they're going to play again. They're going to rematch in Dallas yet again in week 6. Do you think that the Lions get right with this game? And what I mean by that is, that was regardless of what side of the aisle you're on with that, it was a controversial ending to the game. And yeah, add on top of that, it's the Cowboys. So people inherently hate the Cowboys. Do you feel like the Lions can get right in this game on October 13th in week 6, coming fresh off a bye? I want to know your thoughts on that game.
Yeah, the Lions should be favored in that game, and I believe they should win that game. I don't know if it'll be easily they win that game, but I don't think Dallas is going to be very good this year, Dave. I think they're going to take a step back. I think that the NFC runs through Philadelphia, San Francisco, Detroit, and I think everybody else is kind of a crapshoot. And I think you could see teams be better than the Cowboys, such as maybe even the Falcons could take a step this year. There's some teams in the NFC that I kind of like a little bit better than the Cowboys, for sure. I could see the Cowboys at best being a 6-7 seed.
So what about the NFC North? So I and specifically the Packers. I'm just looking at, so week 9, they got to travel to Green Bay. They host them in week 14 on Thursday Night Football, another primetime game. Packers are another up-and-coming team in the division. Jordan Love took big steps forward this past year. As a Lions fan, where do you see that kind of going, like in the division? Brant, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't feel like this is I think as the field goal posts have moved, right, of expectations, you're 30 minutes away from a Super Bowl appearance, okay? I struggle to come back to this and say, look, and Dan Campbell said it himself, this is going to be 10 times harder coming into this and try to win and try to not only win the division, but get back to where they were. Do the Lions have a better team? Yep, they do. Then that roster wise, they have a better team than they had this past year. Does that mean that they will win more games than they won last season? I don't think so. And so it's not that I'm out on the Lions at all. Do I think that they can win the division, are favored to win the division? Of course, I believe in all of that. But the Packers in particular are just kind of they're that other up-and-coming team. And so I want to know your thoughts on the Packers in particular here. Regardless of how it's spread out in the season, do you feel like the Lions where do they sit in the NFC North?
They're the best team in the NFC North, and it's not by a lot. It is very close. I like the Lions to win the division by a game, maybe 2. As of right now, that's where I stand. I also think the Packers do things well that maybe the Lions don't do super well. I think the Packers have a little bit more of an explosive offense than the Lions do. I like their big playability. I like the way that Jordan Love can move the pocket. That he's got that little bit of Jalen Hurts to him, a bit of a gamer, and he extends drives. He's the type of guy that feels like he's going to be a pain in your butt for a long time. And the thing about the Packers is you don't want to have to go that road in the playoffs through Green Bay. There's not a person that would want to sign up to play at Lambeau Field in negative 20-degree temperatures to take on the Packers. So I think that those divisional games will obviously be important. That doesn't need to be said, but I think what's most important about Detroit is taking that next step defensively and trying to get Green Bay, trying to keep Green Bay limited offensively, because I think Green Bay is actually a very good offensive, explosive team that needs to be taken seriously. And I think they have 10, 11 win potential for sure this year.
Fair enough. I mean, I think, as you mentioned, like where tough games will be, I'm looking at the schedule and I'm like, man, December looks challenging. I'm just looking at this, Brant. They've got to play Green Bay at home, mind you, to kick off December. Then they host the Bills. Then they've got to travel to Soldier Field in Chicago. And then they've got to play at San Francisco. So, yeah, they've got that tough stretch sort of at the beginning of the year, the early bye week and all of that. But they're going to have some key games coming up at the tail end of the regular season. And, I mean, that game at San Francisco on Monday Night Football, December 30th, like that's going to be a game for people to keep their eyes on, because there could be some major implications about seeding and all of that when it comes to the playoffs. So I'm very interested to see just how things sort of shake out the way it's laid out, because Chicago, do I view them as a immediate threat to the Lions? No. Do I view them as a trap game? Absolutely. And so these are things to kind of keep our eyes on. Brant, before go ahead.
I don't know what you were going to ask me after this. I'm sorry. But I just want to give you 3 games that I absolutely hate on the schedule, and they are all road games. I want to start with the at Arizona game. It's a trap game for everybody that has to go out to Arizona, I feel like. Like, before you know it, you're you're down 2 scores to the Cardinals for some reason, and you can't figure out why, if it's the road trip or what it is. But teams go out there and they struggle. I don't know what it is. The other 2 games that I absolutely hate on this schedule, they're going to be great games, though. The at Houston game is going to be absolutely – people are going to be building it up as a Super Bowl preview potentially. I mean, you're about midway through the year. The Lions should be 3-4 games over 500 at that point, I would hope. I would expect the Texans to be as well at that point. So, very tough game there. And then, man, at Indianapolis, I think that is going to be an absolute game too, because, Dave, doesn't it feel like the Colts are just in a close game every single week for some reason? It's just, they're that franchise that is always good, maybe not always great, but definitely good enough to beat you every year. It doesn't matter if they have a backup quarterback. That is a tough place to play. Lucas Oil is rocking. That is a tough game as well.
Well, I mean, that was the last thing I was going to ask you really is what are the games that stick out to you that you're looking forward to that could present a challenge for the Lions? And you stole my first one, which is I think that game, Week 10, November 10th at the Texans, like what excites me about that game is you've got the Lions, an up-and-coming team that, I mean, truthfully, the energy in America is around the Lions. But the Texans are not far behind that, and they're very similar in their trajectory right now. They got a rookie quarterback in C.J. Stroud last year who – exceeded expectations is an understatement. They're coming. DeMeco Ryans has those guys ready. I'm beyond excited for that game. Brant, at the end of the day, this schedule it's awesome. It's going to present some opportunities, some challenges, and look, we've got to eventually get into, not this episode, but we will get into soon, what's realistic for this team, because I'll be honest, they're going to be favored in most of these games, but I want to get to the nitty-gritty of, let's be realistic here, okay? The Lions, you win 12, 13 games, like, doesn't mean that the next year they're winning 14, 15, or 16 games. Like, you're going to have a better roster, and a roster that I'm excited about, and I know you are too. That does not mean that you're going to win more football games than you won last year. And that's okay. And we'll get into that. But we've got to break that down here in the future. But yeah, schedule's out. Break it down. Look at it. Hit that like, follow, subscribe button. Let us know what you guys think. What excites you about this? What kind of perks your ears up a little bit? What games are you excited to tune in for? We appreciate your support. We'll see you soon.